Next episode of Past Swing Post podcast, we're here with the Queen of Racing, Gai Waterhouse. How are you, Gai?
Well, I'm extremely well, and I'm very delighted that this young man who I met at Silverdale Stud in the Highlands, learning the trade, is now here to interview me.
Yeah. So, how did you first get involved in racing?
Well, I first got involved in racing when I was born, because my father was Australia's greatest trainer, which was Tommy Smith, and he dominated Australian racing for 33 consecutive years. Hard to imagine that, isn't it? And then after being knocked out after the 31st, he came back and won another 34. And then that was the end of our sort of amazing dominance. But you know, when you sit opposite someone who you love very much, like your mum or your dad, every morning of your life, before you go to school, certain things that they're talking about, or the way he talks with his owners, or the way he talked with all the different people, the press and everyone, it was able to flow over little Gai. So I didn't realise I was taking on so much as I did.
Yeah. And did you see a career outside of racing before you became a trainer, or would you, if you weren't a trainer, what would you see yourself doing?
Well, probably running Australia. I might do a better job.
Yeah.
I wanted to be an actress. I desperately wanted to be an actress, and I went over. I auditioned for NIDA in Australia and got in. I didn't take it up. My father was not keen for me to do that. I defied my father's biddings or wishings, and I stayed in England and worked in the theatre, and I was accepted to LAMBA, and I didn't do that. I went out and trod the boards, and I worked for about 3 years in television and acting in the theatre all over England and over in Toronto and Canada. I also modelled over there, so it gave me great sort of grounding.
So what do you look for in a horse other than speed? When you're going to the sales, what's something you look for in a horse that sort of stands out?
What does Gai look for in a horse? Well, I look for an athlete. I'm not wanting to get something that can't move or hasn't got athleticism about himself. You know, when you watch the Winter Olympics that are on at present, or you see the Olympics with people swimming or running, their muscle tone and the way they move, horses are no different to people, except they've got 4 legs. So when they walk towards me, or I see them in a paddock, or I see them at the sales, I look for the horse, not so much his walk. I'm not really worried about his walk. I'm worried about the way, or I'm concerned about the way he carries himself, his demeanour, the way he looks at you and says, hey, I'm the man, you know, I'm here. And the horse that, if he got, I tripped over that horse there, Accelerator, when he came out of the box at Magic Millions years ago, he flipped over and landed on his head. And then he got up like that. And I said to my girlfriend, we'll buy that horse because of his great ability to get to, you know, to be able to be so athletic.
Yeah. And what would you say is your most favourable race? What's something you look forward to every year to try and win?
Well, there are 2 races I adore. I love the Golden Slipper, and that's the trifecta. We had 5 horses in it. We ran 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th and 6th, I think. And that was Ha Ha. And then there was Accelerator and Red Hannigan. Why do I love the Golden Slipper, Luke? I'll tell you why. Because it's the stallion-making race of Australia. And the 2-year-olds that get to the Golden Slipper have to be the best of the best. They have to be able to peak and be able to sustain that fitness and toughness through quite an arduous few months leading up to the Slipper. The other race I love is, of course, the Melbourne Cup, because that takes great stamina in a horse. There are many other races in between, you know, Oaks, Derbies, Cox Plates, all the Manicatos, you know, the Everest, all those races are fabulous races, but they're the 2 that I most love.
Yeah. And what would you say, what's it like to win the Melbourne Cup? Is that the pinnacle of racing?
Well, any Group 1 race you win is a pinnacle at the time. But because everyone knows of the Melbourne Cup, and because they've been so brilliant in advertising it, and of course it's covered by so many countries overseas, when you win it, everyone knows. So if you win the Golden Slipper, not everyone knows. The breeders know, and the people who are buying horses know, but because the everyday person has a bet on the cup, it's this amazing attachment of Australians to that race.
The horses that you might be racing in the Melbourne Cup this year?
Oh, we do. And there's one horse that I think you really should be looking at, and that's a horse called Campbell Dino. And he won the Brisbane Cup, and he'll be heading to the Sydney Cup. I think he's a remarkable stayer. He's still very lightly raced. The other horse, which is totally a stable favourite and probably an international favourite, is Vauban. And he's run in the Melbourne Cup only last November, where he ran 6th, was fantastic. We might have a horse like Hai Yamal that ran 3rd in the English Derby. We might have, the beautiful Cerdelius. We've got a number of horses that could be there.
Goal for Cerdelius, where do you see him going?
Well, he'll race here in Sydney in the autumn, and the King Charles is the race where we're going to be targeting. He'll go through a number of races before he gets to that. I mean, it's a remarkable race, the King Charles. It used to be the Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful weight range race and something that would suit him right down to the ground.
What's the funniest thing you've ever seen on the track?
Funny you should say that, Luke. I did have an oh no moment before I won the 2013 Melbourne Cup. I said to Rob that morning, I just can't go. I said, I just cannot go to the races. And Rob said, what are you talking about? He said, you'll win the dash race. And I said, no, I said, if we don't, I don't want to let all the little people down. I don't want to let all the people that are on the turnstiles when you go into the races. Because I said, everyone's asked me over the last few months or said to me, this is your cup. So I just said, I didn't want to let them down. And he just said, get out the door and go and win the race.
Yeah. So what would you say a typical race day routine would be?
Well, it's very different now. See, I'm a co-trainer with my boss, Adrian Bott. And Adrian bought the business about 10 years ago. And so I work with Adrian, and I make sure that on race day, especially in Sydney, that I'm able to watch every race from the television. I also ring many of the owners. I'm able to ring them before the race, after the race. I'm able to watch where the best part of the track is. I'm able to talk to the jockeys before the race about what odds their horse are and where they should be, and just give them some idea and get their feedback. And then I ring Adrian on race day, and we go through each runner and how he's going to then have final discussion with the jockeys in the mounting enclosure. My job's really very much a backup job to Adrian and to the stable, and to make sure that we tick along and that everyone keeps happy and functioning.
Okay. And do you have any race day superstitions, like wearing odd socks on race days, or a lot of trainers wear funny ties to the races, or?
Well, I don't wear odd socks and I don't wear funny ties, but I make sure that I don't put my hat this way down. I always turn it upside down, and because we don't want the luck to fall out.
Yeah.
My father did have a few. He didn't, if ever he forgot something, he would never go back, and probably because he didn't want to be late for the races.
Yeah.
He would hate my mother ever to put the hat on the bed. And his final thing was he didn't like the colour green. But because my dad was colourblind, he couldn't really tell. And it was quite interesting that his racing colours, which are here, you should have a look at them. His racing colours, which are here, are blue and green. And yet green was not one of his favourite colours.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this interview, Gai, and wish you luck for the rest of the Autumn Carnival and hopefully the Melbourne Cup.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you.